Hey, my friends, I guess we have to talk about Alabama. So I thought I'd just open up the switchboard. Let's see. Call number is on the screen. You can dial or Skype in if you want to chit-chat a little bit. But, it's just bizarre and unfortunately not hugely unexpected to see in sort of the era of Trump, these exercises in Christian privilege. And so let me pull up the article here and we'll just take a look at one of the latest pieces I saw out of, this is on CNN. This is the display. It said, this is from today at about 2 a.m. Is the Alabama anti-abortion law likely to go into effect? And of course, this is what we're talking about is the Supreme Court in play. I'll just read the first part of the article verbatim. It says, on Tuesday, the Alabama Senate passed, and on Wednesday, Governor Kay Ivey signed into law the most restrictive abortion bill in the country, a near total ban on all abortions. According to Eric Johnson, president of the Alabama Pro-Life Coalition, who helped craft the legislation, the bill was specifically designed to go to the Supreme Court and challenge Roe v. Wade. The new law would become enforceable in 6 months, would carry stiff penalties for those caught violating it. For example, doctors could face up to 99 years in prison for performing an abortion in the state. So what are the chances the law will be implemented anytime soon? Next to none, according to this opinion piece on CNN Politics. Facts first, given the amount of legal challenges it's likely to face, along with past rulings on other anti-abortion legislation, the law will probably be tied up in court for years, delaying enforcement. The Supreme Court has discretion over what cases it hears, and there's no guarantee the justices would take up the Alabama ban if it's struck down in the lower courts. Now, as we have a couple of new sort of activist judges, conservative activist judges on the court, and we have to raise an eyebrow because this seems very strategic. Abortion is an extremely difficult thing to get into, but for me, it just has to begin and end with the rights of the woman, to decide what happens to her own body. And this is basic. When you have, abortion outlawed, even in the cases of rape and incest, and it just blows your mind. And I was chiding the governor on Twitter. I'm sure she didn't see it because there were thousands of comments on that thread. But it was, essentially about this is what happens when you have legislation passed by theocrats in a state that is ranked 50th in education. And now, you've got to think Missouri's in play and a bunch of other people who now feel emboldened and empowered. They are now jumping on that bandwagon. They want to go and they want to pass their own restrictive laws to decide. Most of these are, honestly, they're just these old pasty white dudes who are deciding what women do with their bodies. It's pathetic. Did you see that there were, I think, only 3 female votes and 25 male votes in Alabama? What? How does this happen? So anyway, I thought I'd open the switchboard and see what you had to say about it. Also, I need to talk about this if I can. Let me switch my monitor over, and I will get to the phones in just a second. We've been having a ton of fun with Ted Cruz as he warns that a space force is needed to battle space pirates. Now, there is video. I'm hoping this will play, so I'm just going to hit play here, and hopefully this will air without any ads or any bullshit like that. Here we go. Where's my audio?
Forces. And maintaining a superior capability to protect waterborne travel and commerce from bad actors. Pirates threaten the open seas, and the same is possible in space. In this same way, I believe we too must now recognize the necessity of a space force.
All right, we need a space force because of the threat of space pirates. Well, I love the internet. Because the photographs. Let me see if I can pull this up here and get it on screen. Yeah, here we go. People have been sending in photographs. Here's a cat with a pirate hat. Looks very threatening. We have the guy from History Channel, the aliens dude, who's now saying space pirates. We've got a pirate flag on the moon. Of course, Johnny Depp, that was an easy one. He's twirling for freedom. I don't even know what that is. I guess there were a few others of these things. Let me see if I missed any. There's actually a pretty impressive NASA pirate flag someone sent me. Mark Watney from The Martian, Space Force, and of course we have space herpes from the 80s from the 80s sci-fi comedy romp called Ice Pirates. Was it Ice Pirates? I think it's Ice Pirates. Anyway, so we've been having a pretty good time with that. Yeah, and honestly, if space herpes do exist, I think they should exist simply because they can. Because, this image alone, this is a movie. I'm just saying. But Ted Cruz has been taking it in the teeth because essentially he drew breath and attempted to use the English language to communicate his thoughts. This is always a problem with Ted Cruz. And now he's talking about why we need Space Force and tax dollars to fund Trump's Space Force, because you never know when you're going to have to defend yourself against space pirates. So that's been a little taste of heaven. But let's get back to Alabama. And you can talk about Cruz. You can talk about whatever else is on your mind. And I'm going to go to the switchboard and we'll begin that conversation now. Area code 305. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Well, I live in a very staunchly pro-life household. My dad's a deacon. He started a church. And this pro-life well, not really pro-life, but this ban that they put in Alabama has actually prompted Florida to put in a fetal heartbeat. And what my parents don't know is that I personally had to go out and get one because I was 17 years old. And I didn't think that I could live in my home with my parents knowing that.
I'm guessing your parents believe in the soul being supernaturally created at the moment of conception?
Yes, to the point where my dad thinks that even the Plan B pill itself, is actually an abortion pill.
So let me put words in your mouth, but I'm looking for clarity. So the morning after pill is, in his mind, is that murder? Like you're murdering the unborn child with a soul?
Yes, because you're stopping God's plan.
Well, do you have any thoughts on Alabama? What's going on in your mind as you watch these incredibly restrictive and prohibitive Handmaid's Tale type exercises happening in the Deep South?
All I see is, like a reflection of the Handmaid's Tale, but I also see these incredibly evangelical movements happening ever since Donald Trump started his campaign, and these people are kind of scrambling to get a law change because it doesn't look like they're going to have as much political oversight as they do now.
It seems like they are on a fast track. We got to work so that when the 2020 elections come around, if our fortunes reverse, then they wouldn't say it this way, but we would. The damage is already done, right? They're trying to get it done quick.
Exactly. And I'm a future educator, and there are so many states, and usually the ones that are putting in the fetal heartbeat laws now, and especially Alabama, don't even teach contraceptives to kids.
They do what, an abstinence only kind of thing, or do they not even bother?
They do abstinence only, and it's the law. You can't even mention contraception in places like Missouri.
It's crazy. We live in the year 2019, and you've got the Catholic Church even talking about how, using a condom or the pill is somehow contravening God's divine will. It's tragic and bizarre, and it's one of the reasons we fight against superstitious thinking. These guys in Alabama and elsewhere, they're motivated religiously, right? They're trying to sort of legislate. Well, they're trying to directly legislate their particular superstition upon the rest of us.
Exactly. And where does that lie when it comes to our freedom of religion? If the life starts at the mode of conception is something that's heartily religious, how does that work with our First Amendment rights?
On a personal note, and you don't have to answer, but it sounds like, whoops, I lost my headset. It sounds like you are like a free thinker in a hugely religious household. You're under the radar on a number of levels, right?
Yeah.
So how you doing?
It was tough. I came out to my parents one night after heavy drinking, because that's almost the only way to communicate with both of them, because then you can get loud enough to talk over them so they actually listen. And I told them that I was agnostic, but what they don't know is that that was really my first step, and that happened when I was around 8th grade. But now I'm in college. I'm pursuing a career, and I've been atheist for 10, 15 years.
But you guys still talk. I mean, you know, you're not obviously not sharing your whole lives, but they didn't cut you off or anything, did they?
I've been threatened to be kicked out several times. I mean, I live in an area where it's super expensive to live, and you can barely afford like an efficiency without air conditioning.
Yeah.
On a decent paycheck. So I kind of just only talk about the weather.
Well, it's not like you're going to change their minds. Your journey's about you anyway. And if you sit around trying to sort of alter their destinies, that way madness lies. So as long as you're living your own life as best you can and working your way towards solidifying your own foundation, that's the most important thing. I'm excited you're going to be an educator. Do you have like a type of education that you're directed into, or right now just doing the basics?
Well, personally, I want to teach like the bigger kids. I don't really want to focus on elementary school so much. And I love English because you can use metaphors to address practically anything. And rather than preaching to the students, you can actually teach them critical thought.
I love the idea that you're out there and you're going to be helping to enlighten people and spread knowledge and encourage thinking and use language. Language is beautiful. When used correct, when Ted Cruz is not using language is beautiful. Just check the chat room before you leave. You will see a lot of people who have your back, okay? A lot of people have your back, all right?
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everything that you've done. I started listening to you when I began a spiral of questioning my religion, and it has helped tremendously.
Awesome. We're all in this together, so you keep kicking, all right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Wow, what an encouragement that is. As an activist, sometimes, especially when you're doing what is kind of a zero-sum game, you produce and release, you produce, you release. I mean, it's just one show after the other. You know, the Tuesday show goes out and you're back to square one. You do wonder sometimes, you know, does it really matter? And is it really still having an effect? And those type of calls, I just, you know, they charge me and they fuel my tank, you know. 615, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Seth, it's Tracy Barkley, the comedian.
I know who you are. What's going on, Tracy? What's happening? What do you think?
Well, when Pat Robertson says Alabama, you're one step over the line, I think that's a warning they should take. And I'm originally from Alabama. And unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it really doesn't.
For those who aren't sure what we're talking about, Pat Robertson of the Christian Broadcasting Network. Oh, wait, is he 700? No, he's CBN, I think. And he's
CBN and 700. Yeah.
He's been way off the grid for a long, long time. He just says crazy stuff. And even he came forward and said, this is too extreme. And which means that the legislators in Alabama are to the right of theocrat, televangelist, brainwashed Christian person, Pat Robertson. That blows my mind. That just freaks me out. So
I know, but unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, but what the kicker is that if Alabama was not part of the USA, it would be a third world country. Its main import is federal welfare dollars. And so it seems to me that they would rather control the population than, just let it explode, because they don't want to take care of those children after they get there. That's the kicker.
So they're pro-birth more than they're pro-life.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's just the prevalent. Like I said, I moved out of the state many years ago, but I still go back to visit my family, and it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed since I was in high school. And it's just old, pasty white men, as you said, trying to control women and women's choices. Yeah. And it just really chafes my ass. Yeah. I can't even vote there anymore because I don't live there anymore. So Mississippi, they're going to be drug into the 21st century kicking and screaming. Eventually.
Toured the South. It was a couple of years ago. I did like 5 different cities in the South, and I was in Mobile, and people were there who had to or felt they had to lie to their friends and family about where they were going. They were afraid, like, if my boss knew I was at an atheist event, I might get fired. If my parents knew I was here, I might be shunned. I mean, it was extra critical for them, this sort of underground of people who they reject religion, but their culture was so suffocating that they worried about their lives personally and professionally. That really marked me when I was there. And where, I feel for the people who are free thinkers in the state of Alabama. This is where their roots are, but they look all around and they just see insanity, right?
They do, and there's a lot of them there. I don't want anybody. I know with the whole, Roy Moore thing, and now this, everybody thinks Alabama just needs to be blasted off the map.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of free thinkers and progressives there. They just don't have a voice, unfortunately.
Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I've listened to you since 2010, 2011. You've been an inspiration, Seth. I love you to death. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Big hug from me, okay?
Okay.
Right.
Bye.
See you later. Okay, where was my switchboard? Because I had it up on the screen. There it is. Okay. What was I going to say? You ever do that right on the tip of your tongue and it just was right there? Shit, it'll come back to me. I do that more often. Like, why did I walk in this room? Area code 636, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Seth, this is Thomas. How you doing, my friend?
I'm well. What's on your mind? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to add one thing really quick. And I live in Missouri, and everything your first caller said about contraception education in Missouri is completely true. There's no sex ed in the public schools or anything like that.
Yeah.
First. Second, one thing our wonderful state leaders are passing the exact same legislation. They're just waiting on the governor to sign it. And one thing I did is, and I'll let you decide if your listeners, what they think of this. I'm not going to follow this law. I'm not a doctor, but if a friend of mine that's a woman needs to have an abortion performed, I have offered to drive them personally to Illinois.
I mean,
and risk going to jail myself.
It's almost like right to die legislation, like death with dignity.
Yeah.
Who was that young lady, 29-year-old with a terminal illness where she was going to die in incredible pain. And she ended up, I think she moved to Portland just so she could legally take charge of what happens to her own body. And it's tragic, but I totally get that. I totally get it.
Well, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Seth.
Appreciate you much. Thank you. Nice to be able to take calls again, isn't it? And, I don't know if the video element adds anything for you guys, but I do appreciate you participating and lending your voice to the show. Handmaid's Tale Season 3 is coming back. I think it starts in June. Is that right? Next month on Hulu? Look, I have like some holy grails of television. Breaking Bad. I could go watch the entire 5-season run again from episode 1, and I'd be good. And Better Call Saul is actually, it rivals it. I thought they'd screw it up, but it's amazing. Classic Star Trek, Next Gen, I could watch. Handmaid's Tale. It is some of the best storytelling I have ever seen. And it's chilling because there are so many, and this is not hyperbole, there are so many parallels to what we are seeing today with the theocrats. It's amazing storytelling. It is, I think, salient commentary on the state of the world, certainly the state of the United States. And while it is not always easy to watch, and sometimes you leave the episode exhausted. It is because you are emotionally invested. You are intellectually invested. It is a smart, rich, and I think in a lot of ways, even necessary sort of flavor of television. The Handmaid's Tale, I shit you not, it is worth watching. And I cannot wait for season 3. Cannot wait for season 3. 806. Thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, it's Shy again.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
I'm well.
I actually wanted to talk about the whole contraceptive education thing.
Okay.
It's so bad down here in Texas that I work at a gas station and I have educated more teenagers and young adults about how to use contraceptives.
All right, hang on.
At my job.
Hang on. All right. So they're coming in kind of on the trying to they're buying the condom and a diet Sprite, trying to be cool about it kind of thing, and then they don't know what to do with the condoms. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about, or what?
Yes, I've had some. It's always at 2 or 3 in the morning. They'll come in and they're like, "Look, I need some help. I don't know how any of this works." And I have to sit there and show and talk to them on how to do it and tell them "Oh, there's this little thing right here, but you want to make sure you're not allergic to this and you want to do this." And they're like, "We weren't taught any of this." And I'm like, I know you weren't.
Probably comforted in the fact that you're sort of a relative stranger. Like they may not have to see you again so they can have these difficult conversations, right?
It's so surprising when it happens.
So what are you doing, little pantomimes and stuff to show them how the condom, how does that work? Exactly. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but.
On the cheaper boxes, there's this little thing you can pull out where it shows you how to use it. And it's look, there's this little infograph right here you can follow along with.
All right. Well, there's visuals. I like that. It was funny when I was we had sex ed when I was in 6th grade, and it was a shame-based thing. They came in and they only sort of vaguely described male anatomy. They said, and the guy warned us, he's like, do not ever go out and study female anatomy, as if it was some kind of taboo, that was some sort of sacred thing. And I walked away with more questions than answers. I said in my autobiography, thank God for late night cable. Otherwise I'd be completely, absolutely in the dark. I have no idea. So I don't know. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, we didn't get any sex ed at all when I was in school. There was one point where they pulled all the girls around, I think, 4th grade in to one room, showed them a video that was about periods, and that was it. But the one I remember the most was it was talking about not drinking, and it wound up being a victim blaming exercise, basically. It was a story of this girl who, she went to a party and she had a single beer, and then she went with a guy because he said he wanted to get to know her. And it was her fault that happened to her, basically.
She should have known better. If she hadn't succumbed to the vice, then she wouldn't have been in this situation where she was compromised. Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I walked out of that I never want to be near people again. I don't want to go to a party.
The great big bad world out there. Who was it? Was it Daryl Ray or somebody else that was talking about that, whatever you become sexually active or, you hit puberty at 12, 13-ish. And then the median age for getting married is actually later now in your 20s. So it might be 27, 28. And you think about this decade and a half in between that the church expects abstinence to work for you. You are a sexually mature person, who has innate natural sexual desire. And you're supposed to, for a decade and a half, deny your own natural desires and tendencies. Otherwise, you are in sin. If anyone ever wondered if the church was a mechanism for controlling people, starting with the bedroom, that's a great case in point. So anyway, thanks for sharing that.
No problem. And down here, it's so hard there's this huge shame culture around doing things. So I had to get Plan B once, and I had to go to a nearby city to a CVS, so there'd be no chance of anybody recognizing me.
Yeah. Because
everyone in my hometown knows my aunt, and I do not want to hear the end of it from her. I will never hear the end of it from her.
You're in this one little, a small little one-horse Texas town where everybody knows everybody's business kind of thing?
It's sort of there's 4 or 5 mini communities, and if you're not a part of any of those communities, you've got nothing, and you've got no chance of being a part of those communities unless you were born into it.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, if you're in Texas and you need to know how to use contraceptives, stop by Sky's Place at the gas station at 2:30 in the morning. She'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you about the stuff that your parents and other educators should have provided in the first place. That's a public service you're providing, and I I'd shake your hand if you were right here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm helping teenagers not make horrible mistakes.
Yeah. If honestly, yeah. We've already, I guess I could belabor the obvious, but you've already made a great point. Thanks for calling this show. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good one.
You betcha. See you later. Remember that scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin when he's in the bedroom and he opens up a drawer full of condoms and he has no idea how to use them. And so he's like blowing them up with his mouth and trying to put them on his penis. And before you know it, there's like 15 condoms spread all over the place. Oh God, that's kind of what I picture. So go by the gas station. Go get some wisdom on this subject, especially if you're going to Alabama. Area code 937. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hi, this is Linda.
Hi, Linda. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for all you do. Well, I just wanted to bring up a couple points that maybe some people haven't thought about. With this extreme focus, on the abortion laws, we are missing the crux of the problem, which is unwanted pregnancies. So the question should be, how can we stop unwanted pregnancies? Everything that we're currently doing, everything that women are currently using, are open to mistakes. They're not 100% foolproof, and it's just not working. So we need to find a new approach, a new way to think about how we stop unwanted pregnancies. A woman can't get pregnant on her own. It takes a man. But the responsibility has always focused on the women. Let's look at the man. What can he do? He can wear a condom. He can do withdrawal. This is really radical, and it's new, I think, kind of, to think of it this way, is vasectomies. Men should get vasectomies and freeze their sperm maybe before they have the procedure. And then when they want to make a baby with someone, do in vitro fertilization or have your vasectomy reversed. I just wanted to throw that out there.
That is, that's pretty extreme. I'm not a physician, so I don't know. I saw someone say something like, and I think they were serious, that, cause fertile men, have them all get vasectomies, and then, a few weeks before they decide that they want to try to procreate, to have the vasectomy reversed. But that seems, rather draconian. Well, yeah, in a way, but let's look at what women go through. Oh, I get you.
Childbirth.
No, I get you.
What women put their bodies through, what women put their bodies through taking birth control pills and all the things that we do, the side effects, the risks to our health.
Yeah.
Birth control pills can even cause blood clots and death. And my ex-husband had a vasectomy. He was fine. He was tender like the day after, but he was completely fine and minimal discomfort. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I appreciate you
Thanks
throwing
for
that
letting me voice it.
You got it.
All righty, bye-bye.
It's funny. I knew a couple, and they didn't want any more kids, married couple. This must have been back in the 90s. And they didn't want any more kids, and he made her go in and have the procedure because he didn't want to get a vasectomy. And of course, we're all shouting at him like, what's the matter with you? It's like a 10-minute outpatient procedure for you. For her, it's a hugely invasive thing. But for him, he was like, no one's touching my balls. You go do it. And so he made his wife go in and have the procedure. And so, and in that way, I can see kind of what she's talking about for sure. 817, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for waiting. Who's this?
Hey, My name is Cece. Brand new atheist, actually. I think that the people that will be hurt the most are kids and teens and very young adults just because of the lack of education. And I really think that it should be a lady's choice because I had a terrible complication when I was pregnant. And though I've seen so many failed birth control methods, and I have about 3 or 4 birth control cousins, failed birth control cousins. I'm terrified to get pregnant again. And I'm just like, I don't think it should be up to other people to say what you do with your body.
Yeah, it's your body.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. You speak
and
wisdom.
I feel really bad for kids. So I feel really bad for kids because, everybody's having sex when they're teenagers. Knock it off if you think that they're not. Not everybody, but
Yeah.
But they don't get educated, and it's going to be a downfall for them in the long run. And I hate it for them.
Yeah. How you doing? If you're freshly out of a religion, how you doing?
Oh, I'm just thinking through it, and I've been listening to you and Aaron Ra and a few other people, and just kind of coming to my senses, and it's the weight is falling off, to say the least.
Well, I know it's not an easy road. I mean, I get what you mean, but I know it's not always easy. So just hang in there, my friend, and thanks for listening. It really does.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. You're real cool.
Thank you much.
All right, bye.
I want that on a t-shirt. Seth's real cool. 417, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hi, Seth. This is Terry in Springfield, Missouri.
A lot of Missouri going on today. What's going on in your world? What do you think about all this?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that I missed you and haven't seen you in a few years. I'm usually the one that helps coordinate selling your books here and stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you don't mind me, I would like to plug something that I started last night before I went to bed. Of course, Missouri, as you've heard, is on the block of the same thing that Alabama is doing. And, we're taking it a step further, and they're saying no exemptions. So no exemptions for incest or rape or anything like that. And so, I mean, it won't pass, but, they're just testing the waters. So late last night, I talked to my husband, and I started a handmaidens group here in Springfield. And before we hit 12 hours, we were at 90 people interested in dressing up as handmaidens and going to protest. And if others are interested, they can find us at Missouri Handmaiden on Facebook. I'm really wanting to kind of shake it up by just going out in public and wearing the handmaiden's outfit, while grocery shopping.
Under his eye. What are some of the
under
other
his
things?
eye?
Under his eye. Blessed be the fruits. There are some other ones. They're really creepy phrases they have. You've been watching the show, then, I take it?
Oh, of course.
Are you as hooked as I am?
Course.
Like Natalie and I are just all in. Like we have to know what happens next.
I think I threw at least 5 objects in my living room at the end of the last season. And
all right. Well, I didn't mean
I'm really excited to see what's going to happen next month whenever it opens back up.
To derail off of your cause or group. So how do people find that real fast? And we'll just slug it one last time.
Missouri Handmaidens.
Missouri Handmaidens. And that's on what, Facebook, or is it just a website, or what?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Something I came up with last night, and Texas also has one, and I'm really hoping to grow this. It's out of necessity, and we just need to make a stance.
All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
All right. I need to do some due diligence here and say a couple of very quick thank yous to Tracy. Thank you so much for the super chat. And there was one other one here. Seth, would you be interested in addressing Christian dominionism and the climate disaster we are most likely facing in a show sometime? We can talk about that. Christian dominionism believes that we are given stewardship over the planet by God. And so as a result, it is arrogant of us to think that we could ever screw up the planet. And this is one of the arguments against human-caused climate change. It's arrogant to think that we could ever affect our environment in any way. And even if we did, it doesn't matter because Jesus is coming back in the next 5 minutes and he's going to sweep up and then we're going to have a new heaven or a new earth and it'll all be honky-dory. The resources are here for us to use and even abuse because we have been given dominion over all the earth. And so that's what that refers to. And that informs a lot of people, especially people who are legislators, lawmakers, voters, people out there who are influencers, believe that it's all just a big kegger and we can trash the place and it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we just pay the deposit. Somebody else will come and fix it and it'll all be fine. And it's a pathetic way to live. 978, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hi, my name's Courtney.
Hi, Courtney. What's on your mind? What do you think?
I just wanted to mention that thing about Pat Robertson. The only reason why he said it was extreme is because it's too extreme to pass in the Supreme Court, he thought. But he still is a nutcase. And also, I wanted to say, did you see that thing with that guy, Mike Walsh, who said that a 12-year-old who was raped by her father should have to have the baby to prove that she got raped?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah. He said she'd have to.
That was...
It's crazy.
Disgusting.
He votes, right?
It really is.
He votes. He procreates. It's terrifying. So.
What is this country coming to? But I guess, we all need to work together to stop it.
Yeah. Well,
so
I think
that's all I really wanted to say.
There's a lesson there, though. I mean, we can all sit back and bitch about how awful it is, but it's if this doesn't translate into actionable stuff, then, everybody else wins. These theocrats and these sort of dominionists win. And so it's important for us to have our voices heard. Thanks for making yours heard here on the show. It means a lot.
Of course. Thank you, Seth. I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Oh, okay. Let's take a look at that Pat Robertson thing. Where's my display? Right here. Okay. This is from USA Today. It is dated May 16th. Longtime evangelist Pat Robertson, who opposes abortion, criticized Alabama's near-total abortion ban that on Wednesday became the nation's most restrictive and one expected to face legal challenge. Quote, "I think Alabama has gone too far," he said Wednesday on the 700 Club. "It's an extreme law. They want to challenge Roe v. Wade, but my humble view is that this is not the case that we want to bring to the Supreme Court because I think this will lose." Robertson cited the law's lack of exemptions for rape or incest and its punishment up to 99 years in prison for performing an abortion in the state. The law, sponsored by Republican State Representative Terry Collins, makes performing an abortion in the state a felony punishable by 10 to 99 years or life in prison. Attempting an abortion would be a felony with a prison sentence of 1 to 10 years. The only exceptions to the ban would be a threat to the life of the mother, a mental illness where a birth might lead to a woman's death or the death of her child, or in the case of fetal anomalies where a child might be stillborn or die after birth. Back to the switchboard. Pull up the interface again here. I have so many windows open. 315, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Mike from Central New York. How you doing?
Thank you, Mike. What's on your mind?
Well, I'll try and sum it up as best I can, but I was talking to my mom about this subject a couple of years ago, and I've studied enough military history in my life thanks to my dad. He was a historian, and everything I learned about all the reasons that led up to America's first Civil War are mirroring the exact same things going on with what's happening with the abortion debate. The way that states are drawing lines in this, it may not even be that they're trying to get this thing essentially passed through Congress. They're trying to get more people to vote in specific ways, so it makes it more of a Hegelian dialectic. It's one or the other. There's no gray area in between. It's got to be a gray area. It's too dark a subject to really do anything, but you can't ban this kind of thing in a legislative way. You can't. But this is coming from a religious background, religious-led legislation, and religion is poisoning everything in politics these days. But
religion poisons everything.
It does, especially politics. And if there's ever going to be a thing that would make our country snap and draw battle lines at this point, it would be over slavery. And during slavery, at least, those people could voice themselves. But this is over a group of people that cannot voice their own opinions. There's no group or that you can go to that's going to advocate for what the children inside the wombs are saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm tracking about those who were enslaved during the slave trade being able to voice an opinion.
Well, because during the slave trade, we could at least talk to those people. You could get opinions. You could find out what those people believed in, what they lost, who they were sold to, the cultures they came from. Whereas with this, we're talking about children who have never even been born yet.
Yeah,
we're talking about at a point that there is no history to these children or whatever, except for whatever bias or perspective we put on them. So it's that much more of a volatile subject to draw lines on, and the legacy media is drawing the lines for people. Like, even if we can have a comfortable talk all we want, there's fanatics in the politicians sector that are ramping things up more and more every day. It's getting stupid.
All right.
It has been for a while, but
forgive the lag. There's a little bit of a delay between us. But thanks for calling the show. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thanks for letting me.
All right. Moving quickly through the switchboard. 850, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, this is Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
I actually called because I just heard you mention about when you were in Mobile, Alabama a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I admit I've wanted to talk to you about that for a long time now, but kind of chickened out on calling in. I kind of had a significant life event that happened right after I met you in Mobile. Me and my boyfriend, we met you and saw you speak. And unfortunately, I couldn't really tell you what you spoke about because the next morning I actually had my first seizure. And I am okay. I don't want to make it, an awkward moment where you feel like you need to say sorry or anything like that. But I obviously lost a little bit of memory and had to recover from that. And I remember waking up and, him asking me, just trying to slowly gauge my memory. And he asked, so you remember we saw Seth last night? And I was like, yeah. So, yeah, I remember being there. I remember walking in and saying hi to him. And I guess the main thing that I wanted to tell you besides, just thank you for traveling and thank you for doing what you do. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional.
No, that's fine.
But I remember one of the things that made me very happy after I was recovering was that I remembered having the chance to meet your family and your pet that night. So I couldn't remember your speech, but I remembered patting Henry and Tootsie on the head. And I remembered meeting them and meeting you, and that meant a lot to me.
Well, you remembered the most important part of the evening, I think. So I'm glad for that. Human connection, you and me, and our families and our people getting a chance to be in the same place and enjoy time and connect. That's huge. So, wow. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're just huge fans, and we've been listening to you ever since, and I've just been kind of scared to call in and tell you about that, but I've been wanting to for a long time.
No
so
reason
thank you
to be
for
scared.
listening.
I don't bite. I mean, I'm honored that you would call. How are you? I mean, how is Alabama? How is all this playing out? You know, what do you think?
Oh, geez. Well, I guess fortunately I don't live there. I'm right next door. I'm in Florida, right near there, like on the border.
Yeah.
So I'm absolutely pro-choice in every sense of the word. I think bodily autonomy is the bottom line, period. Most important thing. So I am wishing the best for everybody over there, and I'm definitely going to vote in my own state every chance I get. I just don't know. You were just mentioning The Handmaid's Tale, and I just finished watching that for the second time. And yeah, that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, at first you're like, oh, it's compelling fiction. And then you look around and go, what the hell is going on around here? Oh,
yeah. And of course, as a woman, I'm kind of thinking this as a woman. I'm like, well, if I start to mention this to you, will I sound crazy, or are you realizing it too?
Yeah. Well, I'm hugging you. Okay. Big hug from me and my family to you. And I'm glad you got to see, Toots and Henry before we lost him. I really enjoyed my time there, and I was so glad to meet everyone. So thanks for sharing your story. You know, it's a good memory. Let's hang on to it. Okay.
Yeah. And thank you. And I hope to see you again whenever you come down this area.
I'll be back.
All right.
Take care. That's huge. Wow. It's amazing. We had a full house, too. It was this sort of nondescript little place. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Part of me wondered if it was wasn't a church. It felt a little bit like a fellowship hall kind of a room. And I was like, how many people are we going to have? And all of a sudden it was just like full. I mean, it was just full of people. And they were all looking around going, yeah, a lot of people don't know I'm here. But it tells you that even in the Deep South, there's a silent group of, not necessarily even silent group of free thinkers who are resisting the religious tide. My switchboard is so full we could be here all day. Let me do just a few more. But I want to make sure and get as many callers as I can. 937, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for waiting. What's your name? 937, are you there? I will return that call to the queue. How about 360? You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hi, I'm YouTuber Grudge.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm really quite upset that actually multiple states have adopted these abortion laws because it's, in my opinion, very disgusting. Any woman should have the ability to decide what to do with her own body.
It's a good argument for getting the hell out of Alabama until somebody comes to their senses. I mean, I get that you try to fix the system from within, but I wouldn't blame somebody for, packing up and getting out of Dodge. It's just crazy over there.
Well, yeah, that's...
We saw that with the...
that I don't agree with.
This recent legislation about how adoption agencies can discriminate against non-Christians because it's the potential adoptees don't fit the requirement that is in accordance with their specific faith. Essentially a license to discriminate. Time and again, what we're seeing is our rights being encroached upon by religious privilege. And honestly, if these Christians were watching privilege in this way being exerted by other religions, they'd be losing their minds. Or if they saw atheists coming in and saying we were going to impose an extra measure of something that they considered to be untoward, they would be losing their minds. But because they are in the majority, they enjoy this moment of, this sort of hyper-focused moment of influence. They are working as quickly as they can to try to make sure that they are controlling as many people as they can and controlling the system as well. So I think we got to keep the fight up. So thanks for making your voice a part of it. Okay.
Thank you very much for accepting my call.
Thanks for calling. Appreciate you very much. I have an international call. 45 is what looks like the area code. Who's this?
Hey, Seth, this is Gary. How are you?
I'm well, Gary. What do you think? What's going on?
Good. Well, I just wanted to say, coming out of, I live in the Nordics now, and I think there's,
I missed it. I'm sorry. Tell me again where you're from.
Sorry, give me living out of the Nordics. So in Scandinavia, I actually live in Denmark.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I can now. Thank you.
So what I wanted to say is that, living outside of the US in a very kind of secular environment, I think it's, there's a lot of surprise about the batshit crazy ideas being put forward, especially coming out of the deep south. I mean, we don't, in most of Europe, have to even consider a kind of, level of foolishness that's being put forward by some of these bills. But what I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if somebody in Alabama could put a bill that said, hey, if you want to ban people from having abortions, you need to force the state to be able to support that family woman, if she's not part, if she's not part of a loved family, support that woman throughout the life period of that child to adulthood, because the pro-lifers seem to be pro-life until the point that the child is born. And once the child is born, that they wash their hands and, don't want to have anything more to say about it with regards to its upbringing, the quality they could have. Would you think?
Yeah.
Not that
just say, hey, look, if you're going to force her to bring the fetus to term, then you hold the responsibility for financing the raising of the child, providing the foundational means for the child, education, clothing, food, necessities, everything the child would need throughout its entire life. Is that what you're saying? Because I kind of like it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the main problem with that, I guess, Alabama being 50th in education. I don't know that the child's going to get a quality level of education.
Be about a $1.99 investment in Alabama, probably.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're going to force somebody to have to do something against their own desire, you'd never have the same position where you'd get a law passed by curly old white guys, like myself, for example, that would enforce the position on a male person. So if you kind of, try to force that back, what do you think that states like Alabama and Missouri and so on would actually have to say about something like that? What do you think the reception would be for that as a position?
I know. All I know is that there would be some sort of schadenfreude if we saw the people, the males, this 25-member group of white males, all of a sudden be forced to some sort of a physical and or financial a life consequence having to do with their own reproductive system. They would be wailing and screaming and pounding their fist and having a shit fit and still likely be completely unaware of the irony of it all. But there would be some poetic justice in it. So I don't know. It's an interesting idea. We'll give it over to the chat room, see what they say. Okay.
No worries. Thanks very much, Seth.
Nice to talk to you. Thanks for listening. From Denmark. That's cool. I'll do a couple more. 561, thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, this is Nick.
Talk to me, Nick. We're talking about Alabama and some Ted Cruz and whatever else is on your mind.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to relate it a little bit tangentially to what your opinion on Sam Harris is, or if you have an evolving or devolving opinion of him and like the types of people he's talking to nowadays, like the whole intellectual dark web phenomenon that I think is a little bit silly, but I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Well, that's a whole other show. I don't think Sam ever asked to be included in the intellectual dark web. I think he was kind of named. I'm not convinced that, you can send me the links if I'm wrong, but I've never seen him embrace the IDW. I think it's a stupid name. The IDW is supposed to be the result of extremism on the right and the left. And so you have this intellectual dark web, these minds who've come together who are going to celebrate free speech. And I don't know if they all call themselves centrist or not. I don't really follow it all that closely. I'll say this. Sam Harris, like the rest of us, is a flawed guy who makes mistakes. He's a human being. But I have yet to see anybody throw any legitimate criticism his way that sticks in terms of the more inflammatory invective about him being a racist and about him being an Islamophobe, which I think is a bullshit term. I think he deserves much better than he's gotten. And if I may, I think he accomplishes more for the cause of free thought before breakfast than most of his critics will in their entire lives. So, while occasionally you'll say, I don't agree with that. I don't sense that he's acting from a sense of malice. I certainly don't sense any hatred. I've seen his explanations for some of the misrepresentations about him that have been floating around on the web. And I think, honestly, he deserved better. And so remain a fan of Sam Harris. I'd be honored to have him on the show someday. I think it'd be a great conversation. I think it'd be a compelling interview. So that's my stand for what it's worth. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
All right. Kind of a detour there. I mean, I don't know. Is that Sam Harris blow up still going on? There's some people they just sit around and, they're waiting for him to say or do something that fails their ideological purity test, and then they just lose their minds. And then they commit themselves in mind and in time to doing nothing but labeling and branding and throwing shit and losing themselves on social media, trying to make these tremendously toxic labels stick to them. And I think, there's some times Sam and I've disagreed, but he ain't the devil, and he's accomplished quite a bit, and we can disagree on some stuff and still see each other as agents for positive change in this world. And that's how I see Sam. 706, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for waiting. Who's this?
Hi, my name's Andrea.
Hi,
and
Andrea.
I live in Georgia.
Oh, how's that working for you?
Yeah. Considering the fact that I was raised IFB and got out at 14 and was able to drag my sister out, terrifying. Yeah. Absolutely terrifying.
So, we've been talking about Alabama. Georgia's honestly, I'm from Oklahoma, right? So we have a theocratic governor. We have a ton of God and country flag-waving Republican legislators, and we have a bright, flashing red state which overwhelmingly loves Trump. Now, that describes Oklahoma. Would that be accurate for Georgia as well?
It would be accurate. I live in rural Georgia, rural central Georgia. So my area definitely, I think most of Georgia outside of Atlanta, it's weird because it's like all the rest of us down here in no man's land are stuck in a seriously red state and God, guns, country, and Trump. But if you go up into Atlanta, it's kind of like walking into a whole different state for a little while.
Is it like a little mini blue state inside of the red state? Because Austin's a little bit that way in Texas. Like Austin's very progressive.
And Atlanta's like that too. And it's kind of sad that for elections, we kind of get overwhelmed as far as the red outnumbers the blue. And so we're kind of stuck in the middle. And I know that you're talking about Alabama, but we just decide, well, I say we. Obviously, I wasn't included in this decision process, but my state just decided that 6-week-old embryos that aren't even fetuses yet are now people, like citizens, and you can get child support for them. And I actually read the House bill, and it's truly disturbing, especially considering my sister has osteogenesis imperfecta, and getting pregnant and carrying would cause her severe damage. And luckily, there's still a loophole for that. But it's knowing that, like, our parents voted for Trump, and our parents are still very gung-ho with towing that line, and they seem to have this disconnect with where it could cause her legitimate harm.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that the brittle bone disease?
It is.
Yeah.
It only got a name, I think, in the 70s.
Yeah.
Was when it got turned into OI. And
so this cluster of cells then is supposed to qualify as personhood in the state of Georgia.
Oh, you can claim it on your taxes as a dependent.
Wow.
So,
I have no response to that. I'm sorry. I'm stunned. So.
Yeah. You can start getting child support at 6 weeks in utero.
Wow. What do you need for a child at 6 weeks? I mean, forgive my ignorance, but I'm trying to think, well.
Probably anti-nausea medication. But
I don't, I mean, forgive me. I really am trying to work it out in my head, but will you hang in there? You know,
I mean,
do you still live in Georgia now, or
yeah.
did you bust out?
I still live here. My sister still lives here. Our family's here. The scary part is I have 2 beautiful stepchildren, and my daughter is in Alabama.
My goodness.
So,
you know, it's funny. I've been
we're talking about
Alabama and Georgia and a lot of the Southerners. I give them a lot of shit because I'm in Oklahoma and I feel like I've sort of, we're all neighbors. But I also know there are a lot of tremendously good people in these states that are genuinely grieved by what is happening. They feel a bit powerless sometimes. They feel kind of big-footed, like this was done against our will and we are taxpayers who deserve better. And so I want to say, that we understand that there are a lot of people out there who are fighting the good fight for the cause of human rights, certainly female or human autonomy, what happens to their own bodies in these states. And we want to support you in any way that we can. I know the ACLU just filed a lawsuit, and there are going to be other lawsuits filed as well to help strike down this sort of assault on women's rights to choose. And so you guys, hang in there, my friend, and thanks for being a part of the conversation today. Was there anything else?
Not particularly, other than, keep in mind all of us that are blue stuck in the middle of a red state that don't really get any representation. We had a lovely representative from, I want to say, up in the counties that make up Atlanta that actually spoke before everything got said and done, that was talking about how she had tried to conceive multiple times and had trouble, and that under this bill she could have potentially been tried for murder because she kept miscarrying, and it was through no fault of her own.
Jeez.
So we do have some good people down here. It's just we tend to get shouted down.
All right. Well, hey, you keep kicking and we'll back you up as best we can. All right.
Thank you, Seth.
Appreciate you. 2 more on the switchboard. I've got time to squeeze them in real fast. 250. You are on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for waiting. See if I can get the call to take here on the switchboard. There you go. 250. Who's this?
Hi, I'm Jim, and I'm an atheist.
Hi.
And I thank God every day that my parents were atheists too, because I don't have to go through the trouble that you do and a few of your colleagues.
Yeah.
I'm from Canada, and I can't emphasize the absolute disdain that we have for the people who are trying to make a run at Roe versus Wade. I mean, this is something you put... this should be an amendment to your Constitution. This is something, a woman's right. I speak as a man with daughters. A woman's right to choose should be enshrined in your Constitution. I mean, you got prohibition in there, for crying out loud, something which nobody wanted. Surely you can get something as simple as a woman's right to choose the course of what her own body does.
Is there anything like this going on in Canada? I know you've had your share of fights as far as encroachment of the theocrats.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of the time I spend at my cottage halfway up the side of a mountain in southern Alberta, surrounded by Mormons. I never feel safer than when I'm there. They know what I am, I know what they are, and we all get along. I never hear discussion of this. You know, if a woman needs an abortion here, she can go get an abortion and it's paid for by the state. It's part of the national health process. I mean, a woman's health is paramount, but mental health is part of health. I mean, you've got a 14-year-old that's been raped by her father. She's going to go crazy if she has to take that child to term. Mental health is an important part of it, just the same as, the child could kill her, the child could drive her crazy. Well, think of this too. If you're raped and you have a child, does your rapist have parental rights as a father to visit the child? That would be Kafkaesque.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I just wanted to say briefly, but I never believed in proselytization of atheism. I got along with it very nicely, but I have never seen the need to proselytize atheism until now. You've got to get out there. You've got to try and get some of these people to understand that science is key, that living life on this earth decently is key, not the promise of some rose garden in the hereafter.
I can't say that any better, my friend. You should have hosted this show, because that's extremely well stated. I'll tell you what I say to all of my Canadian friends when I have a chance to speak with them in regard to what we're doing down here in the USA, your neighbor. We don't know exactly what happened. We are very sorry, and we're working to try to fix it. That's all I know what to say to Canadians that I run into. Like, we're really sorry. We're trying to be better neighbors. So.
Well, maybe Alabamans should come up here, and maybe we can help them out a bit. You know, we helped out the
guest room on the mountain for them. Yeah, no kidding. My friend, you are greatly appreciated. You speak wisdom, so we receive your wisdom.
Well, I'm old.
You are the oracle today. All right.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate
and keep doing your good work.
I'll do my best.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, I just picture he's got like a sort of like a Bob Ross painting where there's the mountain, out there near Alberta, and he's got the little cabin, and there's a warm hue, a glow, kind of a golden glow of lantern light coming out through the glass and some smoke out through the chimney, and he's on the porch and he's playing his acoustic guitar, and the birds are chirping. It's a happy little mountain, happy little cabin, the happy little birds. I just picture that in my mind, and it gives me bliss. All right, one last call, 603. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for waiting. Who's this? 603. That makes the last call easy. Looks like they're gone.
Hello?
Oh. I just now heard you before, but I'd already hit drop call. Please call me back, and I will wait. All right? We'll hang. We will fellowship together. We, the brethren, are willing to wait on you as you redial the switchboard. So how are you? Game of Thrones is coming up on Sunday night. I am pissed about season 8, episode 5. I'm not going to give any spoilers. Just saying, pissed. But I'm going to watch the final episode after I'm going to Little Rock. I'll be there on Sunday. I'm driving up. I'm going to drive up at 8 in the morning, 4 hours, going to speak in Little Rock, Arkansas at 2:30. I'm going to finish at 4:30. I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to drive 4 hours back, and we're going to watch Game of Thrones at the house. If you want to be a part of the event in Little Rock, the event is listed at my personal website, sethandrews.net/events. There you are. Area code 603. Who's this?
Hi, this is Ginger.
Oh, Ginger, thanks for waiting on me. What's going on?
Well, actually, my question is even more relevant after listening to that woman from Georgia.
Yeah?
Because when she was talking about, you can claim, that bunch of cells on your taxes, I have yet to have anyone define for me when conception is. I mean, I know it's the egg and the sperm come together, but when is that? 2 seconds after sex? 10 minutes? A couple of hours?
I don't know the answer to this question.
I mean, if you have sex, say, on New Year's Eve at like 8 o'clock, and then then the clock comes over and you find out later you're pregnant, does that mean you can claim it for that previous year on your taxes?
So right
Because
before the end
form.
of the tax year, you're saying you could claim a dependent if it was at a certain time before midnight, if they could just nail it down, right?
Right. But except the IRS forms ask for date of birth, not date of conception. So how would you handle that with the IRS? Because if you can claim it on your taxes, then you have to know when conception is.
So you would check a box, you would have to fill it in, like date, exact moment, exact second of sperm egg convergence. That would be its own line on your personal tax form. I see.
But what if they ask you to prove it in an audit?
That's a great question. That's something that we can chew on for the rest of the week, Ginger. That's brilliant, and it was worth waiting for, damn it. So thanks for calling that. It's a great point, right? When exactly did this particular rendezvous happen between the sperm and the egg? How would you know? How would you then demonstrate it? And if you claim it on your taxes, how do you qualify it for the Internal Revenue Service? That's brilliant, Ginger. Thanks for sharing it.
Thank you.
All right. That's really funny stuff. And honestly, it's one of those great philosophical questions that actually draws a huge red flashing circle around the absurdity of all of this crazy batshittery that's happening in Alabama and beyond. My friends, keep talking about this stuff. Keep challenging people about this stuff. Call your elected officials, write your elected officials. Let your voice be heard. I mean, there's no way that we have 23+% of non-religious people in this state, and that there's not a huge yet underrepresented demographic of non-believers in these southern states that are being big-footed by the theocrats. We have to speak out. We have to put ourselves on the line and just make our voices heard to try to undo the damage that is now being done. Your work matters. Your words matter. Your activism matters. So keep the non-faith. And thanks for being a part of the show.